Hi, I'm Delithna Dawalko, presenting your daily news. 8 children die of hunger at the Ida Referral Hospital in the city of Mekelle. Ethiopian troops and their allies are waging air and ground offensives against Tigrayan forces in the northern region of Amhara. Vice President of Tigray Region, Fezalwet ገብረ praised the Tigrayan diaspora for their relentless struggle in exposing the world the genocidal atrocities of the Ethiopian government and its coalition partners. 8 children die of hunger at the Ida Referral Hospital in the city of Mekelle. A nurse at the hospital, Teklab Gabramariam, who's coordinator of the children's ward for under 5 years, said his team is monitoring 44 children under life-threatening conditions, which is an unprecedented case in the history of the hospital.
We have never accommodated 44 children in a month in our hospital before. In normal times, the opportunity for survival was hunger, as there was enough medical supplies. But since the start of the war, there is dire shortage of supplies. That is why we are now facing high number of deaths.
Disclosing that 8 children have died of famine-induced complications. He said it's mind-boggling to see children dying of lack of food and medicine in the 21st century. Parents attributed the death of their children to Abiy's insatiable appetite for power and his genocidal war against the people of Tigray. Some parents of the children in critical condition have had this to say.
My son is 2 years and a half. It has been 2 weeks since he was admitted to the hospital due to malnutrition. The world should reach out to save the lives of these children.
I took my child to Kwiha Hospital when his situation got worse. They referred him to Ida Hospital, asking me to bring him here as a matter of urgency. I am hoping my child will survive, but I don't even have milk and I'm in starvation myself. My child has stopped breastfeeding. He is now very weak.
The nurse urged the international community to put enough pressure on the Ethiopian government to allow medical and other humanitarian supplies into the region. In related news, UN Office for Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs said 18 people, including 1 child, have died due to lack of medicine supplies at the Ida Hospital in Mekelle City. OSHA, in its weekly humanitarian update, reported that the humanitarian situation in Tigray remains increasingly dire, while the spillover of the conflict in neighboring Amhara and Afar regions is rapidly increasing the humanitarian needs in those areas as well. The health situation is of particular concern due to lack of medicine and medical equipment. According to OSHA reports, 18 people, including 1 child, died due to lack of hemodialysis catheters at the hospital. The lives of 34 patients are at risk unless the dialysis supplies are provided immediately. The oxygen machine in hospital is broken and needs spare parts that are not available in the region at the moment. 5 women are understood to have died at home at the time of delivery from the postpartum hemorrhage due to lack of health care in the Warada of the southern zone. Hospitals outside of Mekelle, including Hausen, Aksum, and Adigrat, have run out of nutrition therapeutic supplies to treat severe malnutrition cases among the young of children. Health partners' capacity for essential activities continue to reduce due to limited flow of medical supplies, cash, and fuel as well. They are now supporting 13 health facilities in 39 IDP sites, 10 waradas compared to 125 health facilities and IDP sites that are hard to reach in the area as well. To sustain humanitarian operations, an estimated $6.5 million is needed every week, either through a functioning bank system or the government's approval to transport adequate amount of cash. Since the 12th of July, about $4 million has been cleared or dispatched to the city of Tigray. Ethiopian troops and their allies waging air and ground offensives against Tigray forces in the northern region of Amhara, and humanitarian sources told AFP on Friday, and Temnit Bayru has more.
Getachew Redda told AFP there is a massive move against the Tigrayan forces, which have been locked in a brutal conflict with the pro-government troops in northern Ethiopia for more than 11 months. Getachew said there has been mostly air, drone, and artillery bombardment, and reported a major troop buildup, saying tens of thousands are amassed in northern parts of Amhara, including North Gondar and North Wallo zones. Separately, Getachew told Reuters news agencies the air raids were clustered around three areas, near the towns of Wurgessa, Ugaltena, and on the road linking the region of Afar to Amhara. A diplomatic source confirmed to Reuters that there had been air raids near Wurgessa. "We are confident we will thwart the offensives on all fronts and more," Getachew said. "We will stand our ground until the siege is lifted." The reports come just days after Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed was sworn in for a new term on Monday, despite mounting international criticism of the conflict and alarm about the humanitarian crisis it has triggered. Observers say that the current offensive lays bare Abiy's claim that he has accepted IGAD's proposal to enter into negotiations under South Sudan President Salva Kiir's mediation. There has been speculation that the fighting could pick up now that the rainy season is ending, and with mass mobilization throughout the country and in Amhara in particular. On Thursday, the spokesperson for the Amhara region said on Twitter, "Since an operation to free our people who are in trouble because of the terrorist TPLF could be conducted at any time, in all fronts, we have to be vigilant 24 hours a day." Awad Walda Mikhail, a Horn of Africa security expert at Queen's University in Canada, said earlier this week that Abiy's new government would have to grapple with what he called a trifecta of crisis: the war itself, its humanitarian and economic fallout. The upcoming wave of fighting and worsening humanitarian conditions are further a hit on his international standing and the test of his new government from day one, he told AFP. Last week, Abiy's government sparked outrage when it expelled 7 senior UN officials from Ethiopia for meddling in its affairs, exacerbating concerns about the humanitarian response in Tigray. UN Chief Antonio Guterres, who has said more than 5 million people were in need of humanitarian assistance on Wednesday, urged the Ethiopian authorities to allow the UN to deliver aid without hindrance. Tigray is under a de facto blockade and is preventing most aid getting in. Ethiopian officials blame the TPLF for obstructing deliveries, but the U.S. State Department told AFP last month that access to essential supplies and services was being denied by the Ethiopian government itself. The UN's humanitarian agency, OCHA, has in recent days warned that the lack of medical supplies was also having fatal consequences in Tigray and reported alarming levels of malnutrition among children and pregnant women.
Refugee and humanitarian crises in Afghanistan and Ethiopia were the focus of intense debate during last week's annual UN Refugee Conference. UN High Commissioner of Refugees Filippo Grandi said that at the UN's conference in Geneva, Switzerland last Friday, the week-long discussions were very constructive. Grandi said Ethiopia was the second crisis after Afghanistan that commanded a lot of attention at this conference. He said delegates worried about the limited ability to provide aid to millions of civilians trapped in Tigray and about the conflict spreading to other regions in northern Ethiopia as well. They also expressed great concern about the recent expulsion from the country of senior UN officials by the Ethiopian government. Quote, "And of course, the appeal is always the same: abandon this useless and devastating approach, which is a military approach, and go for a negotiated process instead. This is the only way to stop the escalation of humanitarian needs in this country." End quote. The UN reports around 5.2 million people in Tigray, or 90% of its populations, need humanitarian aid immediately. While most attention was focused on Afghanistan and Ethiopia, Grandi said he appealed to the states at the meeting to not forget other refugee crises, nothing they exist in every region of the world. They include the Rohingya Southeast Asia, West Africa's Sahel region, Syria, and the Middle East, as well as Venezuela and Central America. A new version of the Atlas of the Humanitarian Situations in Tigray is out today. Partially funded by the Ever Casually Counts, the preprint version of the Atlas is the result of rigorous research by 8 scholars of the Belgium Ghent University Department of Geography. The Atlas of Humanitarian Situations documents the maps and the situations in approximately 6 million Tigrays currently find themselves in at the moment. The 26 maps in this atlas provide detailed information at the scale of districts or sub-districts. Locations of internally displaced people, massacres, and civilian casualties receive due to attention in Atlas. Humanitarian access and needs are particularly addressed as well. Official data on the humanitarian aid distributions are mapped and contrasted to ground evidence related to such distributions. Chronological overview of the 260 reported massacres in Tigray are documented, covering November 2020 all the way through September 2021. The final outlook links up the emergency and the famine conditions in Tigray to the current crop status and to the blockade and the siege of the region. To come out with this valuable atlas, the researchers contacted key informants in different districts of Tigray to collect qualitative and quantitative evidence of the actual situation on the ground. They also confronted these data and testimonies with information disclosed by the government of Ethiopia and by the humanitarian organizations as well. Quote, "The people of Tigray and their thousands who supported our earlier research endeavors gave us the strength to carry out this emotionally difficult work." End quote, the researchers acknowledged. While no number exists for the total amount of civilian casualties, well-documented cases of over 3,055 deaths by the 3rd of October indicate that 8% of the dead are women, 92% are men. This is in line with the often stated intention to eradicate Tigray fighters as well as the future generation of fighters. Among the men, a small number of victims are priests, deacons, and traditional people with authority in the community. Casualties are dominantly 30% victims of massacres, killing sprees, point-blank executions, in-house searches, rounding up civilians, or after arrest. Though impressive in video footage, only 3% of the known victims was killed during the shelling and airstrikes, such as the one targeting the Togoga market on the 22nd of June. People who died of hunger or due to the total collapse of the healthcare system are generally not reported in this case as well, and make up less than 1% of the fully documented victims. However, the number of people who died of hunger was expected to be in the thousands, as already by early July, 400,000 people were reported to experience famine-like conditions, according to such atlas. As 2 of 10,000 of these people are expected to die of hunger every day, approximately 71 to 80 people die every day due to man-made famine conditions in the region. Vice President of Tigray Region, Fetelwork ገብረ said the mission of Tigray's resistance is to destroy the enemy, which is hell-bent on annihilating the people of Tigray and not seizing other territories. The Vice President made the remark in the briefing she gave regarding current developments. She said in the briefing that it's imperative to confront the enemy forces in their backyard to ensure security of people of Tigray.
Attacking the enemy forces outside Tigray means we are defending ourselves. Apart from that, we have no interest to seize Wollo, Gondar or other places. We are fighting the enemy wherever it happens to be. The enemy, which has refused calls for peace, is also threatening to come back and attack us. We have to take a primitive action and fight the enemy wherever it is.
The Vice President of the Tigray region praised the Tigrayan diaspora for the relentless struggle in exposing the world of genocidal atrocities of the Ethiopian government and its coalition partners. This concludes our news for today. Thank you for tuning in. We'll have more for you tomorrow. Goodbye.